this video, I'll be explaining the easiest and fastest way to draw a roof plan. First, we have to identify our parameters and the draw modify tools needed. Eaves of 600 mm, draw modify tools needed for the roof plan, mirror, extend, trim, erase, polyline, construction line, fillet, move, copy, and offset. So I have three building plans. So I'm going to be starting with this. This looks simple. So the first thing we need to do is to pick the edges of the building plan. And to do that, the tool we need is the polyline. But because I'm using the fastest way, I'm just going to use the shortcut. P-L-N-E, enter. Then pick the edges of the building. Make sure you are picking the edges of the building. Back to this. Now I have the polyline, which is the edges of the roof of the building plan. So next thing I need to do now is to move the polyline away from the building plan. So this is the symbol for move. Because I'm using the fastest way, I'm just going to click on M, enter, and specify base points. So you can just pick anywhere and move. Now I have the polyline of the building plan, that is the edges of the building plan. Remember I said we are going to use eaves of 600 mm. So I'm going to offset this. This is the symbol for offset, but using the shortcut O, enter, and specify offset distance 600 mm. Enter. Now that we are done with that, this is the building plan. This is the eaves of 600 mm. You can use the line or construction line. But let me use the line. So I'm joining the eaves and the building plan together. So now I have this. I decide to do the same thing here, and here, because I want to be fast and I'm showing the easiest way, so I can just use mirror. This is the symbol for mirror. Just use mirror. MI, enter, then specify the midpoint. Erase source object, no. I do the same thing to the other side. So let me just pick, and then use mirror again. MI, enter, and specify midpoint. Erase source object, no. And enter. See, I'm able to put what is on this side to the other side using the mirror tools. So now the next thing to do is to join these lines together using the fillet. This is the symbol for fillet, but for the shortcut, F, enter, select first object, select second object, again, F, enter, select first object, select second object. Now I'm done with the fillet. Next thing to do now is to connect this to this using the line. Okay. Now I'm done with the roof line. I can decide to differentiate the building plan from the eaves. So let me just change this color. Let's use yellow. And that's it. Now I'm done with the first roof plan. Now to the second one. I'm going to use the polyline again. Polyline. And pick the edges of the building. Enter. Next thing you need to do now is to move. So enter. Specify base point and move. To get our leaves now, this is the building plan, so we're going to offset in enter 600 mm. Then use our line. Using the mirror shortcut, AI, select source object, right click, then locate the midpoint. Use source object now. Now to make it easier and faster, I can decide to just mirror it to the other side too. MI. Erase source object. No. And then I can use the copy. Right click, copy selection. Specify base point, so you have to specify the base point and then put it to all other edges that are having the same direction. So I don't have any direction for this again, so I'm going to end. I'm going to do the same thing for this. Right click, copy selection, specify the base point, because they are in the same direction, so rather I'm using this one. Now that I've been able to occupy edges now, enter. Next thing to do now is to connect these lines together using the fillet. So this is the fillet symbol. So F for fillet, F, enter, select first object, select second object. F, enter again, select first object, select second object, F, enter again, first object, select second object. Now I can use the line to connect this together. Enter. Use the line again to get the boundary line. Enter. Then I'm going to have to extend. So for extend, select boundary line. In case you extend, this is extend, or for shortcuts, I'm just going to have to click on my keypad, EX, enter. Then this because I don't need this, I'm going to have to trim. Enter. Extend again. To connect this point to the other line. Enter. Now I'm done with this roof plan again. To differentiate the building plan from the eaves, I'm going to change the color. Now I'm done with the second one. What I did here, I used mirror, then use copy selection to transfer the small line to the other edges of the same direction. Then I use the fillet, the line, and the trim and extend the modify tools. Now to the last one, to the third one, we're going to use the polyline again. Polyline. Pick the edges of the building plan. Enter. Like we did for the previous one, so I'm going to move again. Right click, then move. The next thing to do now is to offset, highlight the polyline. For shortcuts, enter 600 mm. Offset distance. And that's our offset 600 mm. Like we did for the previous ones. Now I'm going to use the line. Enter. So from here, because I'm using the shortcuts, I can use mirror again, AI, enter, then specify the midpoint to the other side, erase the subject, do the same thing for the other side, mirror again, AI, select object, right click, then specify the midpoint. Now I don't need to start drawing another line, then maybe using mirror again. Next I can do is to use copy selection, that is highlight a line, then right click, choose copy selection, specify the base point, and then put it in all the edges of the same direction. Because this is not going in the same direction, I'm going to have to stop. Enter. The next thing I'm going to do is look for the edges of the same direction. Okay, I can use this copy selection, specify base point, and drop it. Enter. Now I'm done with connecting the edges of the building plan and the eaves. Like we did for the previous one, now we are going to use the fillet, that is F. Enter. So specify first object, specify second object. This is for the first one. F, enter again, specify first object, yes, the second object. At this point, because we are having different edges, I'm going to have to create a boundary line. Boundary line, line again. That. Then you can extend. For extend, select the boundary line because we are using the shortcut. So E, X, enter. For this place I can trim once. So it won't be a wanted line. So for trim, this is the symbol for trim. But because I'm using the shortcut on my keypad or my keyboard, I can just click on CR, enter. Then I can trim. The next thing to do now is to mirror, because I have this direction. I want to take this line to the other direction. So select or highlight, then MI for mirror shortcut, enter. Specify first point of mirror line. First point of mirror line where you want it to go. You want it to go to the other side. So this is where we are going to put the end point. That's it. Enter. For the other part, we're going to have to extend again. Okay. Extend PX. Extend. And then I can trim. CR. Enter. Next thing for me to do now is to extend again. Then I'm going to have to highlight this, extend, enter. Because this line is closer to this. This line is closer to this, so that is why I'm using this same boundary line for the other line. This line is closer to this, so enter. Then trim again, see how, enter. Trim. See how enter. We are almost there. The only things I can do now is to identify where the direction of the roof plan is leading me to, because this line, this vertical line, this point is synonymous to this, so that means I'm going to have to use another line, vertical line in now to have my boundary. And I can mirror this to the other side. So for mirror NI, enter. Now I'm done with the mirror. The next thing for me to do now is to trim the unwanted lines. So trim, enter. So I have just one edge for me to close. So highlight and click on extend EX, enter. Yes. Can you see? Now I'm done with this roof plan. Again, to differentiate the building plan from the eaves, maybe I don't want to go back to color or whatever. I can just use the match properties. It's a symbol for match properties. Then click on the source object, that is from the previous drawing, the yellow line, and then put it on the new plan, the new roof plan, that is select destination objects. Right click to enter. So now I'm done with the roof plan for 3 different building plans. The first one looks simple, the second one a little bit simple, and the third one looks complex, but you're able to achieve something from it. Thank you for watching.